Okay, let's get started. Thank you, folks, for joining us for yet another nice Aarohana session. Today we have another fantastic session on health and wellness. But before that, just for the benefit of people who are joining here for the first time, Aarohana is a 3-month program of workshops on various topics related to cultural enterprises. Around building business plan, how do you build your business, how do you scale your business and grow it. Today's topic is around health and wellness. Before we move on to the topic and introduce the speaker, a few quick housekeeping tips. You all will be muted. If you can ask questions anytime during the presentation, and please use the Q&A box on the panel of Zoom to ask your question. And please type in your question in a way that it's simple for us to read and answer. We get a lot of questions typically, so to skim through the ones that are asked very clean, and the ones is phrased very pointedly are the ones we get to pick up. And in case if we missed your question, don't worry, we will pick it up later offline, get it answered by the speaker, and then send it across to you. You can reach out to us at Aarohana at niceorg.in. And you at any time you have any questions or need more information about the program, please visit us on our website, niceorg.in. And it would be great if you can follow us on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages as well. With that, let's get started. Today we have a fantastic speaker, Manoj Kumar. He's the co-founder of Val-more Action Advisory, helping many cultural entrepreneurs grow and scale their business. He's also ex-MD of GSK Consumer Healthcare, and he was with P&G before that as well. Today's topic is around health, wellness, and beauty, and how these three are kind of reaching into a confluence of the three, right? How is the industry trend shaping up, and what can, as a cultural entrepreneur and an enterprise, that what can you take away from this and apply in your daily life? With that, I will pass it on to Manoj. Manoj, welcome to Aarohana, and good to have you here. And I'm handing over the presentation to you. I'm going to stop sharing so that you can share and take it on.
Okay. So let me
Go
just
ahead, Manoj.
on. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here today, talking to all of you. And I intend to talk for about 30 minutes and then open the floor for questions so that we can have an interaction. Uh, so I want to set the context before we start. And I think this is something which all of us know, but it's always good to remember that, the COVID-19 um, has actually got us to shut down for months. And it has actually taken a lot of impact on mental health, relationships, including the impact, the economic impact on businesses. Uh, but as far as we are concerned, we also see in this chaos and darkness, light there. And over the past crisis, if you look at World War One, World War Two, the Spanish flu, we've done a lot of studies to figure out, what has happened after that. And definitely, what we find is that 15 to 20% of the businesses who already been there, they emerge stronger out of it. And a lot of new businesses come in which did not exist during these crises, which is actually quite a good news for a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, that this is the time for innovation and invention. And what we also believe, those who are running their businesses, that while this is a time where you have been looking at your business crisis, looking at the cash flows, looking at how to get people safe, how to run your offices, work from home, all that stuff. But we cannot forget about getting ready for tomorrow. And just as we say, return on capital employed, return on investment, there's a term which we really believe very strongly, and that is return on time employed, invested, which is ROTI. Uh, Time is something which just passes by, and if we don't seize the moment today, if we don't plan for tomorrow today, it's actually gone. And therefore, while we worry about the current situation, we really need to invest a significant part of our time about the future. And therefore, how you invest your time planning for the future is very important, and that's what we have termed as ROTI. So, let me just start by giving a sort of a perspective on the key attitudinal and behavior changes which are happening. Uh, One of the things which I want to lay down here is that there is a belief, or there used to be a belief some time back when we all studied Kotler marketing and everything, is that first you really change attitudes of people and then their behaviors are formed. Actually, now marketing theories have really disproved that. And what happens is that it's not really attitudes which form behaviors, it's actually behaviors which form attitudes. Uh, right, the way you behave, you start behaving, you form your attitudes, and then you form your habits. And this is very important because behavior changes happen very slowly. But during this period of COVID 19, people's behaviors have changed in a way that were unimaginable even a few months back. Everything seems to have been fast forwarded. The way you shop, the way you travel, the way you spend time with family, the way you socialize, the way you maintain your health, the way you stay connected, the way you communicate, the way you eat, the way you exercise, the way you take care of your home, the way you bank. I mean, just reflect. And these are not like changes which you are not aware of. It's just that they have accelerated to an extent that, if it was a slow pace of change happening, they've really become very fast. In fact, some of the studies which have been done show that in these 10 months, or roughly 8 to 10 months, the shopping behavior in US particularly has changed, or actually has accelerated by 10 times, like 10 years, let's put it like this. So we have brought the future into present by bringing it 10 years earlier than what people were expecting. And that's actually happening in all walks of life, the way I described it to you. And if you look at it, these behavior changes are happening at all levels. It's not just physical, it's also the way we think, it's into the mental area, the emotional area, the spiritual area. And if you just put it all together, what we have been doing work, we believe that the behaviors of consumers are changing around these four dimensions, which are very important for you to remember because they are the new consumer entry points, which I will talk to you about later in health and beauty, which we need to really be cognizant of. But before we get into the category, holistically, what's happening is that people are becoming moving from wellness to well-being, and the difference between wellness and well-being is that wellness was a little bit like single dimension. You could actually say, okay, I want to be physical wellness, I want to have spiritual wellness, and when you have wanted spiritual wellness, you went to the Himalayas or you went to an ashram. When you wanted physical wellness, you went to the gym. When you wanted emotional wellness, well, you really spent time with your family, with your friends and all that. But the thing now is that the consumers are actually looking at these wellness drivers not as individual drivers, but a balance between them. How do I do this and this and this and that? And this is very important because it actually means the balance is coming into life and people are looking for their balance. We'll talk a bit more about it. You're all aware home is becoming the new fortress, the new place where I feel myself. That's the place I take off my mask. I actually really unmask myself and be comfortable, whether I'm actually working or whether I am enjoying, whether I'm cooking. And the amount of time I'm spending at home is actually increasing. And that is actually having a lot of impact on the behaviors. and the new consumer entry points which are coming up here. The third dimension is about digital, and digital is with the impressive strides in artificial intelligence, or in terms of the way we are consuming information digitally, the way it is becoming a two-way street, the way all the barriers which we had about technology are slowly sort of disappearing. It's becoming a very big enabler for behavior change nowadays. And finally, I want to really put on the table sustainability, where consumers are now starting to become more demanding from manufacturers on the meaning of sustainability. It's no longer just about just a poster stuff, or I save this much water, or I do something like that. It's actually about real proof of sustainability, traceability, to be able to know that I can see the product, I can see the ingredients out there. So overall, if you look at these four drivers, which are here, they'll be basically the things which one has to look at, where the behaviors are changing, the four dimensions of behavior change. Uh, Now, if I look at the topic today, uh, health, beauty, and wellness, I think it's important for us to pause and really think, what is the meaning of beauty, for example, in this particular context today. And there was a recent survey done by Ipsos in 27 countries, including India. And it was pretty interesting that the top four attributes that make someone beautiful, in that order, are happiness, kindness, dignity, and confidence. In fact, if you think about it, the makeup and cosmetics actually figured as the last element, last item from the various attributes which they were researching. And it's very interesting to really think of this particular attribute, because what it basically means is that consumers today do not really believe, or they've started to believe more in their self. So the old saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, where here the beholder is the self. So beauty is in the eye of the self. What you think is about yourself is what makes you beautiful. And you can see the effect of this coming. You remember the Fair and Lovely controversy which happened just at the beginning of the lockdown. And one should wonder, it took for 10 years, uh, Hindustan Unilever did not do anything about the brand name. But just in 3 months of the lockdown, they were willing to change the name from Fair and Lovely by removing this connotation about fairness as the beauty connotation. And it's actually something which one has to keep in mind in terms of the meaning of beauty, the meaning of the fact that you definitely need to look beautiful to attract someone. Let's say the first point of interaction, fine, you're looking beautiful, but you are really beautiful when you are able to get to know that person, and the other person gets to know you. And then what happens is the inner beauty always triumphs over outer beauty. And this realization is coming very, very strongly in the current situation. uh, the other part which is also happening is, at the same time, there's a trend towards natural and clean products. uh, while this is a welcome trend, the challenge which is happening is that if everything becomes natural, and if everything becomes, you're going to the source and getting things natural in your products, everything is natural ingredient, then there will be nothing left on the planet. I mean, your sustainability of the planet will actually be under a lot of pressure. And therefore, there is a tension which has been created between safety, quality, efficacy, and sustainability. It's also becoming important that while consumers say that they want natural products, they want clean products, they also really need safe products, and they also need products which are sustainable. So Procter and Gamble, the company I used to work with earlier, uh, they have come up with an approach where it's all about responsible beauty. It's not about chemicals or natural or chemicals or non-chemicals. It's about whatever you do. Is it safe? Is it efficacy? Delivering efficacy? Is it delivering quality? And they're not sort of taking this natural and clean products as the main forte. But as entrepreneurs, if you were looking at something and you said that, look, this is a great entry point. I have not reached the scale of Procter and Gamble. I can very easily create a niche and basically go with the natural, authentic products. Well, this could be your consumer entry point right now. I was talking to the founder of Neve, and she was saying that sometimes we need to take some sort of call between plastic and glass bottles, for example. And while glass bottles look sustainable, but the fact is that glass bottles, actually are destroyed over sort of thousands of years, and they basically remain on Earth for so many years, while plastic can be recycled. So therefore, recycled plastic might be a better sustainable packaging material than glass. And bringing these concepts in, understanding the real meaning of sustainability and bringing it to and educating to consumers is the task of today's brand builders. But definitely there is a clear trend preference of consumers. I think the challenge for manufacturers is how do you scale up on such products here. uh, and finally, I don't think we should underestimate the power of technology. And the power of technology is becoming um, quite what do you say, empowering for consumers and quite frightening for manufacturers. Earlier the meaning of a brand was that it's a sort of a assured bundle of attributes which I can actually be safe, to be delivered to me. But now there is a cynical consumer, a consumer who wants to know more about things, and there's technology which can help them do this. So there is a technological app. If you go around, you'll see, and these the ones are coming slowly into India, but a lot of development has happened in the US. There's an app called Think Dirty, and you put in the brand name, and it would sort of give you all the negative ingredients or whatever is not good in that particular brand in terms of the ingredients which are there. There is a positive uses of technology as well. So I was speaking to the finder of Wired Technologies, a guy in France, and they have come up with those bands which you can put around your skin, and it would tell you exactly what is the condition of your skin during different stages of sunlight. If you go to the beach, for example, then it'll tell you how much of UV radiation you're getting and recommend which UV cream, how much you should apply when. So they are becoming intelligent devices which are guiding people on taking care of their body, of their skin. And more of these appliances and these devices are coming in. A lot of things you see in Korea, for example, coming up, which are technology enabled beauty accessories coming up, which you can put on your earrings, which are connected to your iPhones, and therefore the whole thing about feeling happy about yourself, giving yourself a unique characteristic, uh, using technology, using sustainability, and doing what you feel makes you beautiful. These are the new sort of trends which have really got entrenched, and you will see more and more of it if you're going to look at the meaning of beauty. But beauty, I think, is becoming more what you call as individual. It's breaking stereotypes. In fact, if you're not a part of the stereotype, that's the new meaning of beauty. And something which can give you, like we said, confidence, happiness, kindness, dignity, and these attributes are becoming more and more. And this COVID times have, actually got people to think about more about the inner beauty, which actually brings to the part about health and wellness. So what's happening to health and wellness? And as I mentioned earlier, that health and wellness are actually moving towards well-being, about a holistic well-being. It's not about taking different dimensions of health and different dimensions of wellness. Uh, this is about striking a balance between this. And what I mean is, it's actually not a balance just with now physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness, but there are new drivers coming up like social wellness, professional wellness, financial wellness. And one of the things people are realizing is that this being well-being is about having a balance. So if you want your physical uh, wellness, you still should have a few ice creams in a week, because that'll make you happy emotionally. You should find time for some spirituality. So yoga is not only about physical exercises; it's a little bit about meditation. And while you do your stuff on the gym, you also need to do something for your mind. And I think bringing this balance together is the new meaning of wellness. And brands which are actually understanding this, like I was again talking to the CEO of VLCC. You might have heard about this group, Vanna Luthra's group called VLCC, and they realized this pretty early, where they had these beauty salons, but they also had health or wellness, packages to go with beauty salons. And then now they have acquired a nutrition company, so that they want to take the wellness into the physical dimension of nutrition as well. So companies are actually now bringing in these services and these products a little bit more holistically, and not just sort of looking at only one dimension of health or wellness. Uh, the part about India, we used to say, when I used to work in GSK, we used to calculate the amount of money consumers spend in developed countries on preventive medication, versus cure. And India was one of the sort of lowest country in terms of percentage of money spent on prevention than cure. And you know about, I mean, if you have the time we go to dentist proactively is very low compared to a lot of other countries. The way we take preventive health care is different than other countries. And in this period, I think during this pandemic, during the behavior changes we are seeing people taking more care about themselves. They're trying to build their immunity. They're actually taking a lot more vitamins, for example. They're taking more precautions, because the consequences of that are very, very, very large. And I think this mindset of doing things preventive in a preventive way is actually quite on the rise now. And finally, this is good news for us from India. Um, Ayurveda, natural-based products, uh, they are being considered as natural substitutes for a lot of things. Today, if you go to Walmart, and again, there's a company, Stride Pharmaceuticals, their CEO, Subodh Marwa, is a very good friend of mine. And what he's saying is that they've sort of launched a lot of herbal products, Ayurveda based products in Walmart, and all of them are flying off the shelf. There are these haldi capsules where you actually put haldi inside and call them cumin capsules uh, at a significant price. They are being sort of bought even in India as well as abroad. And bringing all this as a natural substitute to the traditional medicines of the West. uh, One of the things we are also noticing globally, if you look at it, is that uh, women, particularly, if you were now to look at beauty and well-being, they're not sort of today the trend is that people want to actually not like a 60-year-old woman or a 70-year-old woman wouldn't like to look like a 30-year or 40-year-old woman. She would like to look like a beautiful 60 or 70-year-old woman. And this change is very perceptible because, let's say, just about 5 years back, we wouldn't see vitamins and tablets and solutions by age. You would just see something which makes you look beautiful. It's a fairness cream for skin. Now you see the skin cream for 60-year-old, 70-year-old people. You see vitamins which will work for older people versus younger people. And I think people are now realizing that again, well-being means that you need to look good for your age versus look something which is not your age. And that's a big mindset change, which we are noticing across the world actually, of aging gracefully and aging beautifully, which actually is the main point which I feel and a lot of us feel about that the distinction between beauty, health, and wellness, it's a little bit converging right now. It's like if because if happiness is what makes you beautiful, then health and wellness are the paths you take to get there. So when you look at creams like at GSK, we used to have these skin creams. In PNG, we used to sell those creams. Uh, Earlier, we would say that look, they are actually supposed to look. Your skin will glow. It will actually be radiate things from the outside. Now we have to go a step further and we have to say, look, these creams go inside your body. This is what they do inside the body. And therefore, your skin radiates from the outside. So your beauty, which you are talking about, or whatever is your, thing which you glow on a skincare product, is not just a cosmetic anymore. It is something which is deeper. It actually makes a healthy skin. So a healthy skin is equal to beautiful skin is the new narrative. Then a sort of a shiny skin is equal to a beautiful skin. And that is why the reason for beautiful, the reason for beauty is getting more and more seeded into health and wellness. And that is the value proposition a lot of brands are actually now looking at, how to get into products which really perform. And that's why consumers are asking for performance based health and beauty products. I think we should also realize the fact that recent trends at home and growing influence of digital are accelerating this convergence. Uh, Today, for example, if you look at, um, you know, let's say VLCC was selling face masks, right? And they would actually do the face mask at their salons. But now their biggest selling SKU is face mask packs, which you can use at home. And they have now put in a story around the fact that those are made with natural ingredients. They are very good for you, easy to use, and they're finding that do it yourself at home has become a bigger source of revenue for them. Digital is becoming equally important. I talked to you about some apps which are happening. You know about digital services which are coming up. Today, you can get a yoga class at home using this digital platform, and I think these are all sort of bringing the ease of those programs which you used to have do outside. And the fact is that when you do things at home, like I do yoga at home, through digital means, and the whole family does it. I mean, me and my wife are together, and it's actually an hour of togetherness. Earlier, I would go to the gym at my time, my wife would go at her time. And I think home is bringing a dimension of, let's say, well being by just doing things together. And this is another sort of growing trend which is causing well-being, wellness, beauty, all of them to sort of converge. I talked about the self-help, do-it-yourself, and a lot of these things people are learning. I know that a lot of you would have learned how to cut your hair at home during the lockdown. Maybe a lot of you are still doing that. Maybe some of your partners are helping you, your parents are helping you. But a lot of things we never realized that things can be done at home. Um, are happening at home. And this is again empowering people. People are actually trying things. It's actually opening new ways by which brands are reaching homes of consumers when they do things at home. So, which brings me to the last couple of slides of my talk. Uh, yeah, of course, the last part is that uh, they are not really different to a consumer. They are part of a continuum in today's context. Uh, Now, how do we really look at this from here? Okay, so these are the consumer trends happening. There's a convergence of beauty, wellness. So, how does it affect us? What are the things we could do? And I think here is where I want to talk to you about some of my practical experiences, some of the things which I think you might find useful. If you are an entrepreneur, if you have got your business or starting a new one, I think the first part is understand your consumer. Uh, it looks like a very much like a motherhood statement. Uh, but what I mean here is that one of the things I've realized is that there are many ways to understand your consumer. But the best way to understand is to understand one consumer and call that consumer your muse, your inspiration. And that consumer should be a discerning consumer, a connoisseur of what you are offering. And that consumer, if you can satisfy that consumer, who's in our minds the toughest consumer, the most discerning consumer, you will never go wrong. And the big problem, what I find is that we end up actually trying to understand different segments. We try to get into different consumer segments. You know, the way I look at it is there are connoisseurs, there are amateurs, and there are novice. And there are a lot of novices around. You know, there are a lot of those novices who will probably go with whatever is the trend. Let's say you want to launch a natural product or an Ayurveda based product. And there are a lot of people who will just say, oh, it's a natural product, I'll buy it. But there will be a connoisseur who will say, okay, if it's a natural product, from where has it come? How have you processed it? Is there something I can see like an aesthetic beauty in what you're doing? And that customer is going to ask you a lots of questions. And you have to design and satisfy to that particular muse. If you get that right, then over a period of time, you'll find that you can easily attract novices, you can easily attract amateurs. But you know, designing for the toughest customer is one of the things we need to do. And to study this, we don't need big market research budgets. You know your category, you know your business. You have to find your discerning consumer. When I talked to one entrepreneur, he said, "Acha, so we need to find the parki who understands that." You know, so that's the consumer we need to understand. The new consumer entry points I talked to you about, if you were to think about it, at this stage, you can assume that there are four consumer entry points. One is in the meaning of the well-being. The other is in terms of home. The third consumer entry point is coming in the digital space, and the fourth one in sustainability. So you can use any of these consumer entry points to make your products relevant. Now, how do you make it relevant? You could do it by launching a new product. Like, for example, if you look at it, yoga at home, the digital program we are talking about, and I came to know that this Urban Clap, you know, now it has actually changed its name to Urban Company, is now got yoga at home program it's offering. So it's a new product. It wasn't as aggressively done as professionally done right now. So for them, it's a new product out there. If you look at in the need space of home, there is this whole thing I realized. There's a company called Nephroplus, and in this stage, there is a lot of worry about safety for dialysis patients. How do they go to hospitals for dialysis? And those who have to go for dialysis have to go for dialysis. So these guys have actually got dialysis machines installed in ambulances, and they come to homes of consumers. And they've just suddenly changed using that entry point, launched a new convenient product where there's a trained technician who comes at home. The consumer can sort of customer can lie down on a sort of on a sofa and have a dialysis done at home. Uh, so there are new products which are being brought in. At the same time, there is also the repurposing of existing products. So I used to sell Horlicks at GSK, and it has a lot of ingredients. But now the advertisement, which one of the advertisement stuff which is coming up is that Horlicks boosts immunity, because immunity is the one which people are looking right now. So you got the same brand, but you have really found some new ways to communicate something which is very relevant of today. Similar lines, if you look at, there is this brand I was actually helping with called Supradine of Piramal Groups. It's a multivitamin. It's got a usual multivitamin stuff, but now they've also positioned this thing as immunity protection, because that's the way to repurpose this. Beauty companies like J.K. Helen Curtis, which sells Kam Sutra brand, Park Avenue brand. I'm on the board of that company, and they have actually, these categories weren't doing very well, so they've got a new brand they've repurposed called Premium, in which they are actually selling a lot of sanitizers and home care, cleaning products, which actually removes germs. And also companies are taking brands and repurposing them. They're taking products and repurposing that. Similarly, if you look at Urban Company, the Urban Clap, they used to do a lot of these things: salon at home, beauty at home. But the way the messaging is now coming in is, at the safety of your home. It has become a contactless delivery of these services. So they're the same services, but the way they are actually being positioned is now contactless delivery. So repurposing is very, very interesting for brands which are already in the market, and bringing a avenue to connect with the consumers using those dimensions of consumer entry pride. New businesses, creating new business models. That's making today. If you look at it, a lot of companies have capacities today. So if you want, you can source capacity from your competitor, and competitors are collaborating with each other. So today, you can launch products by even using the supply chain of other competitors. And today, there is an age where people would say, okay, I don't mind giving you the product from my supply chain because I've got spare capacity. Looking at the entire value chain, there are new things happening, new technologies available, and looking at all that really helps in that. Finally, once you are moving into new dimensions, new consumer, new technologies, you need new capabilities. And one of the things is that this is not the time to build them up. You will take time to build it, and this is the time to acquire them from the market. So we have been advising a lot of companies to not wait, just go and collaborate with someone, take the technology from the market, bring it into the value proposition, and bring it to the consumer. So I think these are some of the things where you have to reimagine the future. There is a big mistake we do. We believe that the past will come, and it will be a new past, a new way the past will come in. I think this is not the time to reinvent the past. This is the time to reimagine the future. The last thing I'll leave with you, just to do this, is a sort of a tool we use, a practical tool. It has got four dimensions. One is the muse, the consumer I talked to you about. Start with the one consumer, and ideally a connoisseur, and design for that connoisseur, and then take it to the other segments, which are amateurs and novice. So that's one thing, tip for the muse. Second thing is what we call as the brand DNA. A brand DNA is very important, whether it's a new brand or your existing brand. Sort of divided into three drivers. One is exceptionalness, which basically means that what your brand does very well. What is something you do exceptionally well, which is something which you can be proud of, which is difficult for other peoples to copy, not impossible, but difficult. What is your rarity or your distinctiveness, which other brands certainly cannot copy? And that's important. It's very important. A lot of time we forget. We want to bring in Me Too products in the market. Well, be my guest. They will not last for long. And here we are talking about creating a brand in these times which can sustain over a period of time. So you got to work hard and find that rarity, the distinctiveness which you will create, which others can't copy. And finally is the authenticity. So why should people believe you? What is your source of authenticity? And so we advise people to really look at their brands and divide them into these three dimensions and make sure that they have this ready. Using the muse and the era, as we call it, you get to the value proposition, which is what is the brand promising to the consumer? What is it promising to the muse? What is the unmet need which it is actually meeting at this point of time? And then using this value proposition, we do a value market fit, which basically means that your current era, which you have designed, which are the market segments which you can actually win. And those markets attractiveness is in terms of size, in terms of growth, in terms of profitability, competitive intensity. So you take some dimensions on the market attractiveness, but actually on the other axis is your era. Do you have the right to win? Does your DNA of your brand, which segments can you actually go into? And if you really do the value market fit, you'll get some easy wins. And if you really want to enter some other segments where your DNA isn't ready today, then you have to work harder on your DNA to create a new era to actually go into those segments. So we have found that this model, which is the Val-more model for brand creation stretchability, actually works very well if you bring all the four dimensions, study them individually, and then you bring them together, and then you sort of play around it, and you get the right business plan from here. Okay, with that, I'll sort of close my talk and be open for questions. So I'll remove this screen from here. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Manoj. It was wonderful. I learned a lot about all the trends that you talked about. Very, very relevant to current times, and will be very useful for the entrepreneurs who are listening to it today. A few questions have come our way. I'm just going to go through it, and I have some questions I have noted down as I was hearing you. I will also add them. Number one is from Mamta Jain. Her question is, are there any sources for research or reports on traditional food and cultural ways? For example, soaked almonds and the benefits of soaked almond. Any research done on it, or versus the normal one, that type of thing. If many of them are looking at wellness, people would be looking for information about how much better is this product versus the other product. Do you know if there are any sources on research on such things?
Yeah, I think there are many sources coming up. If you just Google and if you look at those sites which have come up, which really gives you information about products. And unfortunately, in India, this trend has just started. So, I mean, if some entrepreneur is looking at it, that could be a very big business opportunity, which
Very
is create this knowledge base. But I think if you look at the trends which are in Europe and US, you will find a lot of research, a lot of product comparisons around different attributes. And I would encourage you to do some checks on that.
okay.
But I would say that India, there are two things which are happening. One is that there's less of it, and the second one is those who are doing it are not, they're trying to make money out of the research and
Ah,
sort of letting the research out so that people can actually, consumers can actually use it, or you guys can use it. So my advice on this would be that if you're very focused on what you are looking at, look at the international markets, look at US, look at these places. You'll get a lot more information from there. And some of these trends and some of these behaviors we have found between the Indian consumers and the US consumers and European. I mean, fundamentally, there may be a choice of the products they use differently, but their approach is very similar nowadays. So have a look at that.
yeah, what you said is very true. I think the choices might be different, but the approach seem to be converging, and everybody's speaking a very similar language. Somehow, the whole globe is shifting towards it, which is great. Next question is also by Mamta. She a good question. In fact, I had the same question too. You spoke about COVID and how it got us into changing our behavior. One of the behavior changes you talked about is the do it yourself. You spoke about the VLCC, giving you a mask and you say you do it in your house kind of a thing. But do you think it'll continue post COVID, or do you think it is, kind of is accentuated because of COVID? Later, we will flip back to our old ways?
Yeah, I think this is a very I would say it's a $1 billion question, not even a,
That's true.
and a lot of future of brands and companies depends on that. I think we have studied the last 100 years of behavioral changes, starting with World War I, World War II, and what we have found is that whenever behaviors are brought in a very compressed time for a long duration, because the normal theory is that if you have about 60 days or 60, 70 days, 70 days, I think I remember, if you
Mm.
keep on doing the same thing, it
Right.
sort of becomes a habit.
Right.
Um, Now, I believe that there are two types of habits which are being formed. One is a habit I like, and the other is the habit I don't like.
Okay.
So I'll tell you one habit which I was forced to do for nearly 60 days, but it did not form a habit, which was
Okay.
cleaning my dishes because our maid had gone away, and we refused to have a part-time coming in. So I used to wash dishes, but I hated it. And the moment we figured out an innovative way, when my maid came back and we quarantined her and she came in, I ran away from the sink. But there are other habits which are actually forming, which I like, which save time. For example, the yoga, the digital yoga we are talking about. So we used to have our yoga instructor come in, 3 times a week, and now we are finding that we we can learn as well. We can do it as well because now it's a question of him instructing and watching over us, which is what we need. And it is cheaper because he now charges less money. It's more flexible because I can now do it anytime. He can also do it anytime. We can have this. And I think this habit is going to continue. I'm not going to actually have him come to my home
Got it.
ever. So I guess you will see that there are certain habits where we feel good about ourselves.
Mm.
Some of the habits we also feel good because it's sustainability driver. For
Mm.
example, I can feel good that I'm not calling my yoga instructor and saving so much of fuel and petrol and pollution, which gives me another moral energy to sustain that habit.
Right.
So if you could classify those habits or those behaviors which are actually making consumers feel good about themselves,
Right.
and those which are still like a chore, then I believe personally, and our research shows that such, uh, the good behavior habit will actually continue.
Got it.
And
Got
and uh, and yes, people will go back to their stuff, but the frequency may change,
it. Mhm.
or actually some people may just not go back to their old ways.
Got
Definitely
it.
seen after World War I, World War II about these things. People have changed their behavior, and it has actually been good for the economy.
Right. 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 No, I think what you said is absolutely true, and you kind of classified the habits into these two categories, which gives a good reference for someone to kind of look at it by saying, would this be a temporary habit that people would go switch back to, and or versus something will continue the flywheel going even post that, right? So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
very well said. Another question. This is by Sridhar. And his question is, he's looking for a silver bullet, and I hope you have it. He's saying, what is one trait in your experience that can enable a new entrant in this noisy market to stand out? I know there is no one thing, but if you were to, force prioritize among many things, what is it that, one thing that you would say that would help a new entrant against a very tough market?
I have always believed that there is a silver bullet.
Okay,
That silver bullet is understanding your customer.
got it.
The first point I said, understand your muse. Um, I will tell you why it's a silver bullet. I have launched many brands across India, across globe. Um, I mean, one of them I'm very proud about is when long back, I don't know how many of you were there that time, we had a Gillette disposable called Presto Satasat. and it was about a behavior change we had to bring in the whole generation because everyone was using flat blades, and we did not know how to convert consumers because it wasn't like COVID time where behavior was changing in a pressure cooker. There you had to convince people to change their behavior. And what we really, I realized I was a brand manager that time. It was about 25 years back, maybe. I realized the more I spent time with the consumer, the understanding the toughest consumer, and
Mm.
our target was, by the way, not the young consumer. Our target was his dad.
Ah,
Actually, the older consumer who doesn't want to change.
they are the toughest. Yeah.
They're the toughest. So my stuff was I actually spend a lot of time understanding that customer, understanding the older customer, spending time with them, actually spending one full day in the home of the customer, and trying to figure out what is it that will trigger that change. And the thing which then came up as an aha during this whole work, this thing was that this customer will change because he doesn't want to feel left behind compared to his son.
Ah,
And the dad always wants to catch up behind the son.
got it.
Or a new campaign was made just for repurposing this thing. This is just an example of saying that how customer understanding is so important, uh,
Right.
and the toughest customer understanding is very important.
Got it.
You
Got
know,
it.
and if you can crack that, I can assure you one of the things we have found is why only two or three entrepreneurs succeed
Mm.
out of 10. One of the things we have seen, because my partner actually, he's the co-chair of Creative and Cultural Business Program at IIM Ahmedabad, where 200 entrepreneurs have gone through that course.
Right.
What we find the difference between the successful entrepreneurs and not successful is that they have pushed themselves to satisfy the toughest customer.
Got
And
it.
to do that, the chances of your success really go up.
Got it. Got it. I would love to double click on that, Manoj. You did mention about this discerning customers, focus on them. Can you? I mean, I think it is slightly contrarian in a typical intuition, right? So intuition says go after the easy guys and get easy wins, right? So could you just explain a little bit about why we should choose the toughest customer? They're obviously going to get a lot out of you to try to try to get satisfied with, right? So why choose them?
Yeah. So look, this is what we have found is that if you are a serious contender, you want to run a serious business, and you could be another guy. I mean, you could just want to make during COVID, you want to make hand those sanitizers, and when COVID is over, you just want to walk your way. I'm not talking about that type of opportunistic business. I'm talking about something which you are looking for a generation, uh,
Mhm.
hand it over to the next generation. If you are into that mindset, the thing is that what happens is that the number of consumers, connoisseurs, or we call discerning consumers, are fewer, first of all, for any category, compared to the large number of novice consumers.
Mm.
And the other thing to keep in mind is that the novice consumers, since they don't know much about the category you are in, they are actually into projection as rather than for self. They want to show an image of themselves, so they end up paying what you call as higher price for your product. So when you say, it's not only that the novices are large in number, but they're also more giving you more money, and I'm telling you to forget that segment and start with a smaller segment which is tough and which is
Demanding. Yeah.
lesser money.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with this is that this segment, which is the novice segment, while it's large and attractive financially, uh, it is it does not, if it is not having any roots, or it is not having any, let's say, connoisseur they can look up to, then what happens is that these guys drift very fast to another brand.
Right.
So if you enter there, it is like people who live by the sword die by the sword.
Right.
You will actually have to be, you will spend a lot of money, you'll spend a lot of this thing, but you'll never anchor your brand into something very strong.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
it is also easy to satisfy the connoisseurs, the amateurs. And one way I'll give you an example is, take a celebrity and take a brand, or
Right.
wellness brand, or a beauty brand, and just get this guy to talk on TV that I use it.
Yes.
Like I become whatever it is, Salman Khan, or whatever it is.
Right.
And it'll give you quick awareness, it'll give you quick novice, but it will not root you into the real benefit and value proposition of your product. And you will be living on it as long as Salman Khan is popular. And 1 year, 2 years later, you will be foot, you'll be gone.
Right.
Now, however, when you turn it the other way around, the discerning consumer will ask you, what is so great about your product? You say this is a natural product and all, I've got another natural product. And these connoisseurs actually are heavy users of their category, so they know everything.
Right.
Now, to satisfy this guy, and you cannot satisfy this guy with what we call as sensory elements. That means that, oh, this is a very nice packaging, or this is very nice, this thing. They'll say, oh, that packaging and all I'll throw away. I only use the product. So
Right.
you be focused on the product. And in that product, see what these guys are looking for is not functional things. They're looking for the what we call the aesthetic cognitive. What is the beauty behind it? How have you mixed these five, six ingredients inside it?
Hmm.
Such a beautiful product which is so nice on my hair or so pleasing on my face. And I can't understand why other people could not bring the balance between all the ingredients.
Mm.
And therefore, that cognitive aesthetics, which only they can describe and understand, and you can describe and understand, if you actually do that, then once you have that, then you go to the novice and you will see a big difference. And no one else can come there because you got your era right, you got your exceptionalness, rarity, authenticity, and therefore you have a competitive advantage.
Got it. Very well said, Manoj. So basically, your point is maybe these discerning connoisseurs are co-creators of your brand. Maybe they make you go deeper into
Yes.
what you are doing. So they're asking the tough questions and teaching you what you are actually building here, and that
Oh, how right you are.
right foundation. And
Yeah.
on top of it, the others could come and go, but there's a strong foundation to hold it together. Very beautifully
Yes.
said. I think
Yes.
this is one of the key learning. I think you've really brought up the point. I think people certainly would, would have to take cognizance of that. One more question, and then I'll sum it up. We are at the top of the hour. I just don't want to take too much time from everyone. But do you see receptiveness? One of the things you talked about is COVID brought us all together, globally as well. Some of the trends are blending, and not just in India. But do you think, like from a wellness perspective and a beauty perspective, the Indian sentiment and the Indian systems and Indian way of like wellness and beauty, do you think there is global receptiveness for that? Do you think or is the
Yeah.
language very different? How do you see?
No, Bala, very good question. Very good question. And thanks for bringing it up. And I did mention it a bit, but I need to reinforce that. Uh, you see, the concept of well-being is very Eastern. It's very Indian, very Chinese, and it is not a Western concept.
Right.
Western concept is of wellness. And we need to understand this is a huge, huge export opportunity, international business opportunity for brands.
Hmm.
The way I was telling you, the haldi has been repackaged, the way all these Ayurveda ingredients are there on the shelves at Walmart.
Right.
I think the way the whole Indian lifestyle,
Hmm.
if you look at it, yoga, for example, the way it has now been popularized, you go and look at the first site you see on Google is not an Indian site. You see
Right.
a US site for yoga classes. And I think this whole Eastern piece or the balance part, you see, our philosophy is about balance. It's about not having excesses. And this philosophy actually brings a huge opportunity for brands to go to the US and Europe. And I think this is something which is a growing realization. In fact, in one of the webinars, we had been talking about what are the barriers for going there. One, of course, is the lack of knowledge, because the thing is that how do you position these products into international market? The consumer really is a little bit less receptive to the traditional way we communicate here to a different way out there. So
Hmm.
to really understand the customer or the consumer, way of communication, the way of need, the way of distribution. There's a lot of things which we don't know of. And in fact, one of the things which we are working on, Bala, as Val-more, is thinking about, can we bridge that gap?
Hmm.
Create an ecosystem where brands from India Indian brands, entrepreneurs can create those brands, and we can help them access in the international markets with what we know.
Sure.
The market is ripe, if that's the one answer you
Got
want.
it. Now, that's very encouraging, and I think people listening to this should definitely take advantage of that. Final question. I'm talking to you from a GSK and PNG experience perspective. Many of these guys, many of the people who are listening to you today are upcoming or aspiring entrepreneurs, and if they build some product, good product, how do they partner with a large company like, let's say, GSK or PNG? What does it really take to find that partnership, either for distribution or marketing or any such way?
Well, I think if you look around, PNG has a very structured way of partnering. Uh,
Mm.
they really and maybe I can find that link and send it to you to
Sure.
distribute. Is PNG tries to actually have a create competition in terms of they give a challenge.
Got it.
I think a year before they gave a challenge on digital app-based supply chain solutions, and whoever participated in that, they shortlisted, and one of the entrepreneurs got the contract to do a supply chain innovation
I
stuff
see.
in one of the locations.
Got it.
I know that when I was there at GSK Consumer Health, we were very seriously looking at Indian solutions, Indian Ayurveda-based solutions. In fact, I was trying to get Horlicks with Indian Ayurveda stuff. The challenge with companies like GSK is that you really need a very solid proof, scientific
Mm.
proof that the stuff works.
Mm.
So imagine I had to use those Ayurveda stuff. I put it into Horlicks
Right.
and gave it to children. I did a test, but I could not prove that they become sharper, stronger, or taller with that
Right.
because my data between the control sample and this sample was not too much too different.
Mm.
In India, you see the challenge and the opportunity is that you can, based on ingredient, you can make a claim.
Right.
So you can say, well, you put this, it is actually going to bring your mind sharper. But companies like GSK need proof, and they need scientific proof to do that.
Okay.
If you have a breakthrough which you have really got data behind it and science behind it, then companies like GSK, you can call up the R&D department, or in case anyone has got a great idea and you want me to actually pass it to my successor, who's a friend of mine, I
Okay.
could do that. But it has to be really, with some scientific backing.
Got it. Got it. No, I think that you make a very good point there. So you think entrepreneurs who are building such products should invest in such kind of studies, or doing an RCT type of studies for their products? I think would that help them? Is that some
Yes.
kind of a hall pass to at least have a formal conversation with large companies to take them seriously?
Yes, I think it is. Companies are. I can tell you from my experience where heading GSK India, is that we were always looking for such products, but our bar was very high, and we would not take anything and just put it out there just based on Ayurveda texts. That is so. The challenge is that you want to really look at what you call as traditional medicines or traditional solutions,
Mm.
Western benchmarks of science,
Right.
and that becomes very difficult. So I'm not ruling it out, but the fact is that I looked at a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of this thing,
Right.
we couldn't find something at that point of time.
Right.
I also know that there are a lot of other companies which have set up innovation centers, and one of our associates actually runs a center where the company has given the mandate for them to go and find entrepreneurs who have
Got it.
some product, and then they give them funds to test that also.
I see.
So
Okay.
there is an ecosystem evolving
Okay.
using some companies innovation centers. Some companies is through network.
Okay.
More and more of this is getting organized, and Bala, I'll be glad to connect you with some of those platforms.
Okay. Very nice of you to do that. In fact, I see some questions from few people who are already talking about, this is what I've developed and it's 95% accurate. Can I get help? So my answer to them, this is Dr. Shilpa Datta, who's basically written something. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Dr. Shilpa, I would recommend that you send us an email at NICE, and we will connect you to Mr. Manoj, and and I check if it is something that he wants to take it forward, and then we'll make a mutual introduction. So similarly for others as well. I think it's very nice that you are offering yourself. I'm sure a lot of people will come forward to have a chat with you and take your help there. Thank you very much, Manoj, for today. Wonderful session. I learned a lot. I'm just going to, sum up for the rest of it, and so that I've taken some notes. So I love the fact that you said behavior drives attitude. I for one do believe that, and I can see that COVID as an external factor has changed my behavior first before it changed my attitude. So you are absolutely right, and we can see that. And I really love the way you said, well, we are moving from wellness to well-being, and it's all about balance, and you have to balance multiple things and multiple parts of your life, and that's turning. And then the third one you said was digital is becoming human, which is very true. If not for digital technology of where it is right now, we wouldn't have survived COVID. I mean, I think the impact would have been much, much more severe. Frankly, internet and Zoom and everything else. I mean, everything else, digital really has helped us to kind of do the manage the COVID part. So you're absolutely right, and we all have to start leveraging that to move forward. And I really love the way you painted the definition of sustainability, and you've said, and then you also you talked about the tension between sustainability and naturalness versus the safe quality and everything else. I think that's a fantastic point. When an entrepreneur is trying to project naturalness, they have to keep this in mind. What are they trying to project? Is that something which they can sustain for a long time? Or is it the safety or the quality and the efficacy of it that they should index on in how they promote their particular product? You also gave beautiful definition of beauty, and you said it's around happiness, kindness, dignity, and confidence, which I see globally is also trending towards. Is beautiful framework, and now I see beauty in these four dimensions now, which intuitively we've all been moving towards that. And you also talked about responsible beauty, which is also very interesting way of looking at it, connecting two different attributes which are kind of coming together, which we don't associate with each other often. And you talked about how consumers are becoming cynical, and it's becoming hard for brands to actually maintain that faith and the loyalty and the trust of the consumers. It's a lot more demanding, right? So I think that's another part that you talked about, how COVID has changed some of the things like do it yourself, self-help, and home remedies and things like that. People are moving towards a very different kind of way of thinking about how they consume. And finally, you talked a lot about the discerning consumer, focus not on the easy ones, focus not on the novice, but focus on the toughest consumer, most discerning and connoisseur consumer, because they are the anchor and the roots of your brand, and they will keep your brand very rooted and not changed by seasons. So that's a beautiful point. And you also mentioned very beautifully about the reimagining the future. Don't try to lean on the past way too much. Your future is probably going to look much different than what your past looked. So you have to reimagine, and it's more important for us to do it. Finally, we spoke about how do habits stick, and you had very beautiful framework around it. You said if there is a way to sustain the flywheel, some moral energy or some incentives which are inbuilt, then they will continue forward. Otherwise, they will fall off, like your dishwashing thing. I stopped it too. The day we celebrated the day our maid came back, and then that's the last I've done. You had a very good Val-more framework. Thanks for sharing that, and many thanks, Manoj, for sharing your deep insights. And you've been very generous to offer help to budding entrepreneurs, to help them in terms of connecting with different platforms from which they can gain access and distribution. So thank you very much. There are some questions which we will capture and share it with you offline, and get your response and then share it back here. So with that, I thank the audience as well for joining in this wonderful session today. I have one slide, and then I will stop here. This is the slide for what's upcoming in Aarohana. So we have, gosh, can you guys see my slide? Because there is like so many things going on here.
Bala, we can see it.
Great. So, okay. So can you see it now in the full mode, presentation mode?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have upcoming on Saturday double header sessions. We have beautiful good session with Rashmi Shukla. She's a business head at jaipur.com, and Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. And she's going to be talking about fashion and home decor. That's session number 1, which is at 4 p.m. Get some nice coffee or tea, and then you will have another session soon after that, which is with Pranav Basin. He's the director of MSME at Amazon. He has helped create multiple platforms that you guys can leverage. So he's going to talking about how do you leverage digital platforms. That second session from 5 to 6. So look forward to it. It's a Saturday, nice evening. Get some snacks and get some coffee and join us between 4 to 6 on Saturday. With that, thank you very much. Thank you, Manoj, once more, and have a good evening. I'll see you on Saturday. Bye.